Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. This is Sheepdog Smokey, and before we begin, please remember to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're up to date with everything posted. Let's go on and dive into this one. What is the Hyde Amendment, and why does Joe Biden support it? First would be, what does Joe Biden support? Because if you watch his speeches or if you read the press releases, things seem to change day to day. But it's very important to remember what the Hyde Amendment is before we look at who does or does not support it. It began a little over 40 years ago, mid-70s, and is basically an amendment to funding bills that has been included on many of them. But it is an amendment. It is not on every spending bill. It does not become law itself in perpetuity when it is put on one. It is merely an amendment to one bill. Pardon me. What it basically states in its original form is that federal funding cannot be used for abortion unless the mother's life is in danger should the child be carried to term. It has since been amended to include rape and incest. But it does not include eugenics, which is becoming more and more discussed today with rumors of abortion counselors telling people that they should consider it if their child will have a birth defect, or based on if their child will be a boy or a girl. It does not involve or does not allow for a federal funded abortion if it is a matter of convenience. You just don't want to be pregnant right now. And that has become the crux of the argument most recently, is that abortion should be allowed and not opposed, no matter what the reason, no matter how far into the pregnancy the woman is. Recently, we saw Virginia pass a law allowing for abortion pretty much up to birth. The video I saw on it was where someone said that if the mother is unsure and the child is delivered, it will be made comfortable while a discussion is held. Now, to me, that says, okay, there is no discussion. You've given birth. But apparently Virginia doesn't think so, or at least Ralph Northam doesn't, because he signed the bill. This is really a non-starter for me. Abortion is the killing of a human in utero. We hear this group or that group screaming that we can't chop down trees to build houses because one snowy spotted owl from Africa has migrated and has laid eggs. Or we hear about how this animal or that is endangered, so we must do everything we can to ensure they get pregnant and carry to term. But when it comes to humans, you're not a human until they decide you are. There are, and while yes, right now it is hyperbole, but there are people saying, what's next? Post-birth abortions up to age 3? And while yes, that's an extreme that I don't see happening in my lifetime, or many after, it is a comparison that you have to make when you hear about policies like Virginia, where after the child is delivered, they'll make the child comfortable and have a discussion. But this is the actual step they're trying to make first. This is a federal step to say that federal funding can go to Planned Parenthood to perform as many abortions as they want for any reason. And they're having to do it this way because they're starting to realize the 10th Amendment stands in their way on forcing states not to pass laws they don't like. For those who graduated high school in the last, I'll say, 10 to 15 years, the 10th Amendment, in a nutshell, states that any power not specifically delegated to the state, that being the federal government, is relegated to the people, that being state governments. Freedom of speech, religion, the press, assembly, petition, keep and bear arms, protection against unreasonable search and seizure, quartering of soldiers, all of those things in the Bill of Rights, those are protected rights at the federal level. States are not supposed to be able to rule more harshly or to basically rule you don't have that right, even though the federal government has seen fit to let cities like Chicago tell people you can't own a gun, period. Although that has been loosened in recent years. Those type of things are federal, and that is perfectly fine under the 10th Amendment. It was power delegated to protect those rights, to power delegated to the state. But you see, the founders knew that there would be certain things that would need to be protected for the people, each state, and even further down than that, each county or each city would need to decide. A great example of that is education. You see, the state has some control, and state governments have a bit more. But when it comes to funding, when it comes to building schools, when it comes to school transportation, buses, things like that, it's controlled at the county level. At least in my state it is, because counties collect your property tax, which then goes to fund the school districts. Cities may hold a bond to fund certain things that are for their city only. A great example is my city, Arlington, when I was in high school, needed to build a new high school. You see, we had Sam Houston, Martin, Arlington, and Lamar. 4 high schools, and they weren't small by any means, but we needed a 5th. So Bowie High School was planned. We held a bond election. The bond passed, which basically told them how much money they were going to be able to take in taxes above what was already being collected, so that they would know which of their plans to go with. And when a school wants a new football field, when they want to renovate, when they want to do anything at all, that's a city bond. And you see, that is something the federal government is prohibited from controlling. Because why would you want someone in Washington, D.C. deciding what Arlington, Texas can do for Arlington Independent School District? Makes sense. And that's what the founders gave us the 10th Amendment for. Abortion has never been a right. Healthcare has never been a constitutional right. It is a human right under the Hippocratic Oath. You see, medical doctors swear to first do no harm. And while, yes, if I get sick, I can't go to Baylor, Scott and White or Cedar, well, I might be able to go to Cedars-Sinai if they're the LA County, but I can't go to the Mayo Clinic and demand free treatment. What I can do is go to my local county hospital, and I can tell them I don't have insurance, and I don't have the money for this right now, and they will send me a bill. They will not turn you away. Ironically, you get pretty good care at county hospitals. I've been to mine several times, and what happens is you get some older doctors who have a heart for the people and a heart for helping other doctors, and you get younger doctors seeking to gain experience. Those younger doctors are not quite to the point of LA's plastic surgeons or whatnot, where everything is about getting their next Lamborghini. They do make good money, by the way, just not private physician money. But you go in, you see a doctor, they draw blood, they do x-rays, they do CAT scans, MRIs, whatever, and they send you a bill. It's much like student loans. They can't seize anything to force repayment, and they know it. So it's not the cheapest, but it's definitely not the most expensive. Most recently, I actually went to a local hospital that was not my county's hospital because I was having chest pains. This is several years ago. I was having chest pains. I was having breathing difficulties. I know what that is normally a symptom of. A friend of mine who was in the office with me at the time drove me to a local clinic. They saw me. They did all the tests. I told them, here's what I have. I don't have any money to pay for this today. They sent me a bill. Thankfully, it turned out to be muscular, not cardiovascular, so that's a good thing. But that blows the whole healthcare must be protected out of the water. I had no insurance, and I didn't have the money for the visit, and they still saw me. But the Hyde Amendment is one saying that abortion, save where it is necessary to save the mother's life, should not be federally funded. It has recently been, like I said, expanded to cover rape and incest. But that's not enough for the ACLU or the Democrats now. It must be abortion for any reason, with or without explanation, at any point during the pregnancy, is now apparently a right. And this story, Biden has kind of flip-flopped on this. In some of his speeches, he has said it should be protected. Then he waffles on it because he says, I didn't understand the question. It wasn't clear, even though the video has someone clearly saying Hyde Amendment more than once. And this to me shows normal Democrat policy and tactics. Say whatever you want in the moment. You can always go back later and say, well, you weren't really clear. I didn't really know what you were asking. So here's what I'm going to say now that I've had 3 days to think about it and have my staff tell me what to say. Beyond that, it's just a matter of, in this case, CNN playing very loose with facts. You see, the Hyde Amendment is an amendment. It goes into spending bills. When the GOP has control of the House, it's added every time. When the Democrats have control of the House, typically it's not. And you see these spending bills happen every year, sometimes multiple times a year. And this is blowing a mountain into a molehill on CNN's part. Granted, I support the Hyde Amendment. I support the Hyde Amendment without any provisions, because if you ask medical doctors, all of them have said, or the vast majority have said, they cannot envision a situation where they would have to abort a child to save the mother. When asked if faced with one, would you, they have all said yes. If it's lose one or lose both, I'm going to lose one and save one. And with or without federal funding, I can tell you, in my experience with the doctors I know, they're going to save the lives they can save. If they can save both, they will. If they can save only one, they will. If they cannot save either, they will drive themselves crazy trying. With or without federal funds, with or without any of this control, which brings everything to a fine close. This is not about healthcare. This is not about money. This is not about abortion. This is about control. You see, Republicans, by and large, agree that abortion is the taking of a human life. Democrats and all their liberal supporters demand that everyone stay silent on the issue because they want it around. And because of that, no one is allowed to complain, no one is allowed to disagree, no one is allowed to even put forth policy that goes against what they want. And this is going to be an issue that is going to come up in pretty much every debate, every panel, whether it mentions Hyde or not, until the primary. So watch your Democratic candidates real close and see how often they waffle. But I've talked long enough. Let me know what you think. As always, keep the questions or the comments civil. We don't learn from argument, only from debate. Also, please remember to like and share the video. And again, please subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're the first to know of all new content as it is posted. Until next time, everyone, have a wonderful day.